Dealerships can be shady, so I'm gonna give you the red flags you need to look out for when you're buying your next car. If you don't know, my name's Tommy. I've been in the car business most of my adult life, done sales, done finance. Now I negotiate car deals. Enough about me, let's talk about red flag. Picking the right dealership is almost as important as finding the right car for you. Now that being said, all dealerships have this same business goal, to make a profit. And there is nothing inherently wrong with that. It's a business. It's designed to make a profit to survive. But the problem is there's 20% of dealers out there which they're trying to make a profit at any means necessary, which means lying, deceitfulness, or even a full-out bait and switch in order to make that happen. So I'm gonna teach you how to avoid those dealerships by looking out for these red flags. The first red flag is if a dealership is not willing to give you numbers over the phone. Realistically, any dealership that wants to be competitive in 2023 understands that they have to negotiate online. So if a dealership flat out will not give you numbers online, then that is a red flag and I would avoid that dealership. Sometimes they'll use this, I don't give my numbers in writing, but I'm willing to tell you over the phone. That's even a bigger red flag, because why would you give your writing over the phone and not be a pen and paper? They're gonna say because they don't want you to shop around their price, but I have a feeling it's because they don't want you to be held accountable if that price changed later. The second red flag is if they tell you they have to have you come in store in order to do a simple task. I had a client recently that was working with a dealership that said in order to figure out what rebates they qualify for, they had to come into store to figure that out. That's BS. You can literally just look this up. This is absurd. But again, the dealership is trying to lie to you to make it seem like you have to come in store. I'm fine with a dealership trying to get you in store, even though you shouldn't go in. But that being said, when you're lying to get people there, that's a red flag and normally means you're shady. If your pricing changes from website to website, if you're on Auto Trader and it's one price, and then it's on the dealership website, it's the next, and when you go into the store, it's a completely different price, that's a huge red flag. That means that dealership is trying to maximize profit based on where you're shopping, and that's not a good sign, because if you never went online, you might not get the best deal, meaning you should avoid this dealership altogether, because it shouldn't be in business. Maybe I get a little flack for this, but any corner lot small dealership, I don't trust. If it's not a name brand dealership, like a Chevy dealership, Toyota dealership, or a Subaru dealership, I just normally don't trust them. And the reason being is when they get inventory, when we sold our cars that we wouldn't put on our lot as a name brand dealer, we would actually sell it to these dealerships because we didn't want to refix them because it wasn't worth the money. That's the cars that these dealerships get. They get the bottom of the barrel cars from other dealerships or at auction. And these are the worst cars to buy. So I just don't buy these cars from these dealerships at all. It's just not worth it. Going on that same train of thought, any buy here, pay here dealership, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I understand you might have credit concerns. I have a video to help you figure out your credit, but you don't want to buy here from a pay here. This is truly the bottom of the barrel cars. These dealerships have predatory loans, and realistically, they don't have anything that's worth your time. So avoid these dealerships like the plague. Any dealership that has low ratings, and I mean go into a dealership's reviews in Google and start reading some of their sales. Don't just find one bad one or two bad ones. You're gonna see it off the bat. A lot of these dealerships like to fluff up their ratings the best they can, but if you start seeing a common trend of something happening in the Google reviews, that's a huge red flag. I know what you might be thinking if you've watched my videos before, which you say, Tommy, you do talk about negotiating with 20 or 30 dealerships. If that's the case, how in the world do I avoid these dealerships if they're giving me the best price? And that's because most dealerships are willing to match any written price. So when I have a shady dealership or one I don't trust, I try to get another dealership to match it. I'll use an example. I had a dealership that I worked with just recently that I was doing a Mazda CX-5 deal on. And this dealership was really being picky about me buying a car by the weekend. It didn't end up happening. I end up calling on Monday. He ends up blaming me for not coming in on Monday, ends up kind of yelling at me and saying, you know what, I don't even know if this deal's on the table. It wasn't the end of the month, it wasn't anything crazy, but he kind of freaked out. I called him out on it because I needed that deal to be secured. And then a few minutes later, he said, you know what, we'll still do the deal. But at that point, I didn't like how the dealership was acting and I felt some red flags. Worst case, I sent a client in and all of a sudden they're signing a deal and they're having a whole bunch of issues. So I just called another dealership and said, hey, here's the situation. If you match this deal, then I'm more than willing to earn your business. It made it easy for them because they didn't have to discount the car anymore. They just had to match a pre-existing deal. So if this ever happens to you, sometimes it's okay to have another dealership match when this scenario happens and you don't trust the dealership. In the end, guys, you need to make sure you're finding the right dealership. A right dealership is just as important as finding the right car because you don't want to get screwed over along the process. Make sure you ask if they have any fees or any protection plans, as that's so popular nowadays. But if you guys like this kind of content, I want you to like, follow, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for all the support. We're getting close to 10,000. There's a surprise I have when we hit 10,000 followers. So if you guys like this, please like, follow, subscribe, and thanks and have a great day.